Hey guys, welcome to the 2020 Shopware Community Day. It is such a great honor to be a part of it this year. My name is Dangl. I'm from the Bavarian shopware agency dasistweb, and I'm also one of the creators of Dockware, a fully managed Shopware 6 Docker environment. So I've been asked to do this talk today to tell you more about how a Docker setup could speed up your Shopware 6 experience, but also give you some insights in how we use Docker from dev to stage. And maybe, just maybe, there is also a surprise in the end. So Docker. Over the last couple of years, we've invested quite a huge amount of time in improving our internal images and providing more and more functionalities. And in the meantime, we heard all these different problems in the community that we just did not have. So that is the reason why we've decided to create Dockware out of all our previous images and provide the community a seamless and easy Shopware 6 setup and environment experience. So what is Dockware? Dockware basically focuses on taking away all that DevOps complexity from you guys. So it is pretty well documented, and it also tries to think of everything that you just don't need to think of if you just want to start a Shopware 6 shop. It comes with 3 different images. There's Dockware Play, if you just want to test or explore any Shopware 6 version. So you don't even need to be a developer for it. And the best thing is, it starts in just about 5 seconds. Dockware Dev is a perfect match if you want to develop anything. So it comes with all kinds of developer tools. So it's with Xdebug, watches that work easily, also with an adminer, but also the option for additional MySQL clients like SQL Pro. And last but not least, Dockware Contribute. Did you ever try to just create a pull request? So just sometimes it is not that easy. And now simply start Dockware, modify and test your code, push it to your fork, and you're ready to go. Alright, so I guess enough talking. Let me show you Dockware. So I switch over to my terminal, and I can easily start any Dockware version with a simple Docker run, remove it afterwards, use the port 8080, which is HTTP, and then we use Dockware Play for Shopware 616. And after it has been downloaded the first time, it just takes a few seconds until you see this part, which contains all URLs that you probably want to use. So if we go over to our browser and open Storefront, Administration, Adminer, Add Mail Catcher, you see we have a working Shopware 6 that is pretty fast, and also an administration which hopefully has 616 stable, alright, and login with Adminer and a mail catcher that is already configured. So that's it for Dockware Play. What about Dockware Dev? When do you need Dockware Dev? They're ones for all people who try to build plugins. So plugin manufacturers, they want to either develop it for a specific Shopware 6 version or better, test it in any of the versions. But also for guys and companies that build completely customized shops. So Dockware is not only for a default standard Shopware 6 installation, but also for fully customized shop experiences, because it is more about the environment that Dockware offers for Shopware 6. So with Dockware Dev, you probably want to go with a Docker Compose file that looks like this. We have our image, Dockware Dev, in that case 6.2 of Shopware. Then we have all ports that we need, so port 80 HTTP, 3306 for MySQL. We have the 22 SFTP port that we'll be talking about later, and also both ports for the watches, which is 8888 and 9999. In the environment section, line 19, you see Xdebug is enabled, which is turned off by default, but all you need to do is enable it here. Alright, so I would say let's give it a try. Let me just switch back to my terminal, remove the previous container, and go over to my dev folder and start it with the Docker Compose in detached mode. So it is started. You don't see any output in detached mode. So Docker PS just shows us the name, which is Shopware, and with Docker logs Shopware, I see the output. We already know it has been started, good to go. All right, so the next thing is, please download. There is plenty of documentation on the website, the whole source code to your host. That is because we try to isolate the images or container and the host, because that gives us the performance we actually need without any bind mounting. And also, you have your code on your host, which gives you the advantage of code completion, IntelliSense, and all this stuff. So the next thing afterwards is we create a new SFTP connection. So just make sure you have your local host with port 22. Then we have our credentials, which can be found on the website. The Docker path is var www.html, and as a mapping, just use /. And then you have a working SFTP upload. All right, so let's focus on Xdebug. All we need to do is, of course, make sure we have a breakpoint. Let's go to the index and enable it in PHP Storm. So next thing is we head over to Chrome and make sure our Chrome extension has Xdebug turned on, and then just open the storefront. And if we go back to our PHP Storm, you see Xdebug is immediately working. We can do step into, step over, and we're good. So let me disable and remove this. And we head over to our terminal to see the watchers. So first thing is we connect into our container, which is Docker exec interactive, then the name of our container and bash. And then go to this directory, which has a make file for you guys. So while I just start the storefront watcher with make watch storefront, I'll tell you what is happening at the moment. So if you are familiar with the watchers, especially the storefront watcher, you know that it is a bit hard sometimes because it has a static hard-coded implementation when the watcher or the resources on port 9999 are being used. Because that condition means you need a specific request header. And we from dockware, we don't want you guys to do anything or change anything in your template. We do it for you. So what the makefile does is it creates an additional htaccess file that automatically injects the request header, so you don't need to do anything to make the storefront watcher working. But please keep in mind, due to this, it is required that you not only quit the watching command or close it if you're done, but also run the make stop watch storefront command in the make file to remove that htaccess file again. All right, so the watcher is ready. Let's head over to Chrome. And if we do now open the storefront, you see that it has some kind of lazy loading for the styles, which means our watcher is working perfectly. So if we now just upload anything that is related to the storefront sources, bam, it's working. All right. So we head over to our terminal again, use our make stop watch storefront, and see what happens when we refresh our page. It is working with the default behavior. All right, so next thing, dockware should give you an easy and smooth start, and exactly due to this, we've decided to create a built-in Docker sample plugin that is already coming installed and ready to use. So whenever you need to do anything, just a subscriber to test anything or get going, there is a storefront subscriber that already works. So let's say std was here, guys, and either automatically or manually upload it using SFTP. We go back to Chrome, refresh our page. We do have our output. All right, so the last thing I'm going to show you is switching PHP versions. So let me just remove that container. All right, so you can use or start any Shopware 6 version with any PHP version that is supposed to work with Shopware 6. So just simply use docker run. I'll skip the port now, and we use environment PHP version, and let's say we use PHP 7.2 and dockware play 616. It's starting, it's switching to PHP 7.2, and in the bottom you see the currently used PHP version, which is 7.2. So that seemed to work as expected. All right, so about our philosophy, you might have noticed some things that you're probably not that familiar with. So first thing is, our dockware play and dev versions come with the production template. So there is no PSH file. All files that you need are the production files from Shopware that are in the bin folder. So starting compiling of storefronts, JS, and so on. Because why do we do this? That is pretty easy. If you build a shop that hopefully has a high revenue or is at high cost for your customers, you don't want to build it on a developer version of Shopware. You want a stable version which does not have the development template. SFTP. I hear so many guys saying that SFTP just not feels right or is right being used for Docker containers. But to be honest, guys, why? It is working. It worked so good the last couple of years. We have the isolation also on Mac that makes us or gives us a good performance also for Shopware. It just works. Maybe you want to give it a try. Switching branches. Switching branches is a bit different with Dockware. You have your isolated containers. So if you switch a branch, you have to re-upload the source code. There's plenty of documentation on the website, snippets for you guys, pretty easy. But there is another thing that you might want to consider. If you switch branches, some people tend to not reinstall Shopware. And that means you probably have some git ignored files, other artifacts that maybe have some side effects. So whenever you switch branches, not only in Dockware, but in general, it is a good recommendation to have a complete and clean setup that is working to make sure it is being installed one more time to avoid any side effects on some files that still exist. So Dockware contribute. Dockware contribute, of course, has the development template. So it has the symlinks to the platform folder prepared for you guys. You just need to git pull and make sure you have the latest versions. And of course, it also has the PSH file and var commands that you would expect. So what is next? I want to give you some insights in how we use Docker for our workflows, our agency workflows. So, single instance shops. That one's pretty easy. All you need is a LAMP stack server. So that is Dockware. So you can just use Dockware and you're happy. One thing we like to do is to use an additional database, image and container to somehow, some kind of separate it from our Shopware installation, and also use a persistency. So we persist the database also locally, just to avoid it's gone whenever we restart our containers. So more interesting could be using custom domains in HTTPS. We at dasistweb, we love the Nginx proxy. So what we do is we have our etc host file that we modify. So we come up with any random domain that we want to use and map that in the etc host file to our localhost IP address. And then we have on the left side, you see an Nginx proxy that we use. That one gets the ports 80 and 443, and also an additional configuration that you can see on the right side. And there we just configure our virtual host. So we have our SSL 443, we have SSL certificates, which are already pre-installed self-signed certificates that you can use. And of course we have our location that basically just proxy forwards it to our actual Shopware 6 container. And all you need to do in the end is tell Shopware in the sales channel database entry, use not localhost, but any other custom domain you want to use. And then it works. Alright, so if you need additional services, that's a cool thing. Docker has so many services online available to use. So in that case, we do have the proxy we already talked about. We have a mail catcher, but we also have an Elasticsearch. So it is like a puzzle. See what you need and just create your network infrastructure in Docker. Alright, so I was talking with the agenda about dev to stage. That's a cool thing with Docker. You have your Docker Compose that contains everything you need. You can just upload it to any server. So whether we're talking about a QA integration server, test server, staging server, or even production server. Yes, we sometimes also use it for production, but not most of the time. And what we have learned is that server hijacking could be a pretty bad thing that happens in just about a few seconds. So try to remove any ports that are being exposed directly for a specific container like Elastic 9200, and try to bring all port exposings to your proxy in a controlled way, like here. And then you can also do something that not a lot of people know. If you take a close look at my presentation, you see we got the localhost IP with 3306 ports 2 times. That means we have a running database container on 3306 that is being exposed to the local host with the same port. But whilst Docker is working, when talking about all these net rules and so on, it just works and makes sure it is available from the outside world. If you have an IP range before this, you can restrict that access to only that IP or range. In our case, it means we have a working MySQL 3306 connection, but only if you are on the local host or on the host system. And that's one thing we've learned regarding security. Don't try to do it on your own. Use the operation system security things like a pretty simple SSH connection for permitted employees to your host. And then it is a simple localhost database connection, no matter if it is Docker or native. Probably you also want to turn off Xdebug for better performance. And if you have different environment systems, make sure you have a working upload and preparing of these systems. So your CI/CD pipelines, if you have them, work pretty good, and then I guess you're pretty fine. We're happy with the setup and it is working really, really good. All right, so what else? Now that I've told you what we did the last couple of years, you can imagine we had a huge amount of time in trial and errors and also all these functionalities, and in the end we had many images and many tags. So there was some guy that actually had to maintain this. Yeah, thank you. So there had to be something new. There had to be something that kept away the pain of modifying all these images over and over again. Something that wasn't available in that approach that we needed it at that time. And I'm really, really proud to finally present you a new open source framework and technology for Docker that helped us so much over the last couple of years. Orca. Orca is a flexible Docker image generator, and the great thing is it is completely based on the Twig templating engine. So when you need Docker, Orca is being used if you want to build independent images, to have a template for all of them, but also be able to override tag-specific features and functionality. And what it does, it generates isolated Docker files, Docker context files that you can build whenever you want to. So it is like a huge puzzle for Docker files. So one of the cool things is it is not restricted to be used for shopware. It's not even restricted for e-commerce. It can be used for all kinds of Docker services, applications, and everything you can think of all around the world. So I guess it's showtime, right? We start with variants. Let me just switch to my Orca PHP storm. And oops, where do we have it? There we go. All right, so Orca is a far file that you can use, and in it there is a manifest JSON for your project and variants. Variants is basically pretty simple. It is the Docker file. It is everything you want to have for building your image. So I have my Docker file. Just say make generate, and I do get in my distribution folder a simple Docker file setup. All right, sounds good, right? So if we take a focus on manifest. Manifest is basically the configuration file. So you can say what images you want to have, what tags you want to have, what shared assets and variables and everything else you also want to have. So on to the cool things. One of the main aims and goals that Orca focuses on is to provide you the option to use templates. So I do have two 7.3 and 7.4 PHP tags for my image. I don't need to have the whole Docker file everywhere. I just create any random folder with a template. That one is a Twig file and has all my stuff I use globally for all my images or tags in that version. And I have blocks like PHP or components, but also variables. And I can simply use them. So in my 7.3, I just override the block PHP, and 7.4, the 7.4 version of PHP. So if I just generate it, I have two different independent Docker files and setups, all right, with different versions of PHP. So, next thing, shared assets and components. Every file that is in a variants file or folder is being deployed to that particular tag version. What if I want to share these? So in my manifest.json, I have the option for shared assets and shared variables. So if we take a look at our variables, that one is being recursively merged with the variables of each tag. I can just switch my Ubuntu version for all images, or create an assets folder with all configuration files that are automatically added to any of my tags. And also, if you take a look at a README file, I can use pre-built Orca variables. And as you see, the whole Orca building is not restricted to only Docker files, but also files like a README, which makes sure we have our perfect README for every specific version. So, next thing, tagalize. Tagalize is something I would say like a pointer. I can say, hey, 7.4, the folder 7.4 ends as tag 7.4, but I can also say 7.4 is being used for latest, and I also get an independent Docker file for latest, which I can build whenever I want to without any inheritance or erasing conditions or anything for the latest tag. So there are many things and options you can do with Orca. So back to dockware. Dockware is actually just one huge Orca project. It has 3 different images with lots of tags, with shared assets and tag-specific functions and features. Thank you so much. That was everything I wanted to tell you about dockware and Orca. I'm now really happy to hear your questions.